This is Holly Kristensen. She's a registered psychotherapist and a member of the Ontario Association of Mental Health Professionals, working primarily with couples and families. Holly's experience also includes research and teaching in the field of psychology at Trent University. And this is my wife, Cheryl. She's a great blessing in my life, but sometimes causes me trouble.
Sorry, what'd you say?
She wonders why we can't communicate. She refuses to get a hearing aid. I agree. Be healed in Jesus' name. Or are you selectively just not paying attention? I don't know what's going on. Anyways, that's why we're here today. So I'll give it over to Holly. Why don't you introduce yourself? I know I did a little bit there. Did you want to get closer, or are you far enough away? You're okay? In case we oh, she got closer. Did you see that? Oh, Cheryl, thank you for helping.
I just really want to see how you communicate.
At home as well.
It's just like at home.
I didn't want Holly to think we had problems, so I came close to sit beside you.
I know this is a bit awkward, actually, but anyways.
Okay, Holly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You know what? I have to make a comment on that. This is a true story. We had someone over to our house one time, and she didn't know us all that well, and Joel and I sat on opposite ends of the couch from each other, and she later asked, "Are you guys okay? Do you have a good relationship? Because I saw you sat a little far from each other." And we're like, "No, we just wanted to set our drink on the edge of the couch," and so it was funny. Proximity is a good thing.
Is it? See, what if?
Let her introduce herself.
Sorry.
That's just an introduction. That's where we're gonna, we'll just get us started slowly today. So yeah, we're okay. Yeah.
So,
you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, go ahead. Say hi to these folks.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here together with all my family and my husband. And Carl did a wonderful job. Pastor Carl did a wonderful job of introducing me already, but I am a therapist, primarily working with couples and families, and that's my passion. I just like seeing families healthy and whole, and certainly following after the Lord if they're Christians and Christ followers. Not all of my clients are Christians, but I sneak it in there really, really covertly. So I get some principles of God in there just kind of sneakily. It's fun.
So do like Christian people have a hard time getting psychotherapy? Do they get freaked out by that whole thing?
I would say there is a more of a hesitancy with Christian
Why
couples.
do you think that is?
Well, in part, there's this sense as Christians that we want to have this all together. We want to have it all buttoned up. We know what we're doing. We've got Christ in us, so we don't need help, right?
Don't need help.
Yeah.
That's the title of this. Is it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay.
Yeah.
So just before I forget, though, like this closeness thing, what do you do when that's weird with people? Like, because we find closeness weird. Like, we really care about each other, but we don't. Like when we go into the mall and hold hands,
it's awkward.
It's awkward. Like,
when our children were young, my love language is not touch. So when our children were young, okay. We said, maybe they need to see us like hold hands or something. So we would on purpose in the car try and hold hands. Is that bad?
Okay, that's good enough.
Yeah.
That's good enough. I don't know why. It's just kind of my love language, though, is words of affirmation. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
What was the question?
Is it weird that we find closeness awkward? Is that?
Well, tell me more about that.
Tell you more about that? Well,
when we first got married, I thought married couples should cuddle in bed and be close.
Oh yeah.
And immediately. Well, not always immediately, but he would go, "Okay, on your own side. I like my own side. Don't touch me while I'm sleeping."
You do like your own side for sleeping, though. That's awkward when somebody touches you and you're sleeping. So I literally got upset. I was like going to put a line.
I just want to do a survey. How many people like to cuddle while they're sleeping? Oh my, there's a lot of people who like to cuddle.
We can pray for you.
Okay.
Like I got to wake up in the morning. I actually said in the bedroom I'd like a little more new stuff. Let's spice things up a bit. And Cheryl agreed, let's do some new stuff. And she said, let's start now. She said, pick up your socks.
Okay, yeah.
I said that would be new. But anyway, sorry about that.
I get that.
So should Christians get counseling? If they're struggling with any kind of relationship, married, family, whatever, bring one for Holly. I'm chewing on gum, so I probably won't need one.
I'll take one because I'm sure I'll get nervous.
So should people seek counseling? Like we don't do counseling because we want to maintain a pastoral caring relationship.
Yeah.
Not that, we don't care, but
Well, we care.
okay, anyways,
Of
let
course
her
we
answer.
care.
Yeah, I absolutely, obviously, I think that it is important because that's the field that I'm in. It's kind of the easy answer, I have to say yes. But more importantly, I think that you can see it two ways. There's always going to be a time where repair might be needed. And then there's also times where you just need some maintenance. There's reasons to attend counseling for both. It's like, just get it regularly to make sure that you're communicating well and everything is going on the right path. And then there might be times where you go through something that really tests the resiliency of your relationship. And you may need someone just to kind of step in and take a step back, give you a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And that often is really, really helpful.
Kind of have to be open for that whole process though, right?
You do, yeah. So be open to the process, find a good therapist. Most of them are pretty good, but you have to do your research and know what you're looking for. And just, go with the flow. It's not scary.
So what happens if one person in the relationship is willing to go, but the other one isn't?
That makes my job really fun.
How would you, let's say...
I don't want to be here right now.
I've had that situation before where I'm sitting with a couple just like yourself, this close, nice and close, and one says to the other, "I'm only here because she wants me to be here," and it's like, okay, so then I'll start with you, yeah, and then.
So you start with the willing person.
You start with the one that's more on guard and defensive, and then usually they end up becoming the one that loves the process.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very good.
Because that defensiveness is usually there for a reason, right?
So what would be your starting kind of approach with somebody? Like Cheryl and I came in to see you. How would you
Well, that
start?
depends on the problem.
Well, let Holly talk.
Usually I start out by saying, tell me what brings you in today. Has there been something that's on your mind or something that's been bothering you for a while? Have you had anything happen that's been out of the ordinary? Or what do you want to talk about today? And
The Leafs are doing
it goes
good.
from there.
No, let's not go there. So Holly provided
So tell
us-
me what brings you here today.
Okay.
Cheryl?
So Holly provided us with a whole bunch of kind of some top 10
Top
things
10.
that she's seen in caring for couples and families and things like that. So what's the number one kind of difficulty that, let's say, married relationships will have?
Number one is always communication. Yeah.
Always communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Communication breakdown.
Communication breakdown.
Because even if there's a secondary issue or there's something else going on, maybe they're struggling with their kids or maybe they're struggling with finances or intimacy or something else, the core issue of that is that they're not communicating well about it. So
Cheryl did tell me once to go get milk, and I came back with a $2,000 video camera.
how did that work out for you?
It didn't work out
That's a
really
true
well
story. It's not a
because
joke.
the sad part of the whole event was I actually forgot the milk.
Yeah.
So,
And that's when we were very poor and had no money.
but
and
it
you
was
come home
on.
with a-
It was a million payments until 2020, and I said it was all good. And we can capture these memories that we'll have forever. It's priceless. And so it took a while for her to come around. Actually, I don't know that you ever really came around.
No, we actually had some fights.
We had to make a decision then that we had to have boundaries on our financial decisions.
Actually, he had to have boundaries on financial decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That anything over 150, we both had to agree on.
Yeah. That's a good strategy.
So how do you help people with communication? What are some strategies, or how do you kind of encourage them, or what do you do?
So typically I'll ask, tell me who sort of initiates conversation, discussions, arguments in the relationship. Okay. And so then usually, if that's the case, then I start with the person who's not the initiator.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Give them the opportunity to talk. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, get her.
Okay. So,
Well, that was one of our big problems when we were young is, this could be true or not, but I think you come into a relationship with a different style of communicating, and then it's like two foreign languages clashing together. And so they were very verbose, very loud, very assertive in their conversation, and our way of dealing with things was yell, scream, and then everybody ran out of the house. So.
But Cheryl wouldn't talk. You could tell she's having an issue, but she wouldn't talk about it. So I'd stop.
Why wouldn't I talk about it? Tell me, why wouldn't I talk about something?
Well, there could be a number of reasons for that, but it could be based on just the approach. So if Pastor Carl's coming to you and it feels...
Oh, no, it was gentle.
It was gentle?
No.
Well, I'm getting
I guess I perceived
Cheryl,
it.
why don't I ask you this? What was your perspective of how he
Well,
came to
I
you?
always felt like he twisted things around. So I would
here
have
we
a
go. Here we go.
So I would have...
And we're almost at our time.
I would have a legitimate concern, and I always felt he twisted it. So then I felt like it was always my fault. So then I just shut up and I stopped talking. Right?
And it's been 39 years of silence. No, I did. Sadly, my family was very verbal, and we would... Arguing was a form of recreation for us, and we just liked to argue with each other. And so I was used to a robust debate, and Cheryl just wanted to share her heart, and I wanted to show her clearly it was her fault. And so...
What kind of person is that, Holly?
It's a winner. No. But...
Let her say, what kind of person is that, Holly?
Could be a mixture of antagonistic, narcissistic.
Oh, did she say narcissistic? I'm pretty sure she said that.
I have never touched a narcotic in my life. Well, maybe that one time, but...
So if we'd have come to you then, what would you have told us?
Well, what I would have said is, okay, I'd have you sort of enact a scenario, and I would watch what the interaction was like between the two of you, and if it felt as though you were coming on a little too strong, you're a verbal processor, so that's, you're kind of getting everything out there, and you need to, that's important for you. So we're not in any way trying to diminish your approach, but we have to find a happy middle ground for the two of you. And so if you are sort of pulling back, then I would start with you and say, well, Cheryl, why don't you respond and start first with how you're feeling? Give Pastor Carl the opportunity to listen, validate your feelings, and
Validate feelings?
Yeah, that's really important, because a lot of times if there's not a validation of how you feel, then you don't feel safe and secure.
Mm-hmm. And then you lose trust, and then you lose confidence,
and then
everything
you shut
else.
down.
Cheryl's not a
you
feeler,
withdraw.
though. She doesn't even have a funny bone.
I had feelings.
No.
Yeah. Just because my Myers-Briggs is thinking doesn't mean I don't feel.
Well, we would used to have issues, right? And Cheryl wouldn't talk about it. And then we'd go to bed, and then she'd wake me up at 3 a.m. by punching me. It wasn't that. Well, it was.
It was sort of punchy.
It says so. But
Is this a true story?
it's a true story. It was actually pretty regular.
Actually, it was ugly the first few. Just saying, the first 10 or 15 years were ugly.
But I would get up and go, I traveled. I was in sales, and I traveled on the road. I was gone every morning, bang out on the road. And so I'm like, I have appointments booked. I got places I have to be. You could have shared with me all last night. I tried to pull it out of you, but you wouldn't talk. So now it's time to sleep. So now it's time to be quiet and let me sleep.
Would you encourage someone to do that?
Yes.
Tell their wife to shut up and go to bed?
Choose me.
Because that's basically what I
Choose me.
heard.
I actually threw luggage at her and said, when you're ready to communicate, come back.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this.
Throwing luggage at a person, though?
Oh,
No, I don't think.
Let her talk.
I don't think that's a wise approach ever.
That's not a good approach.
That's a whole different kind of therapy we'd be doing if we're throwing luggage and other things.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I thought we were just on communication, not abuse.
We eventually worked it out.
Communication is only 7% verbal. So
Yes, you were communicating loud and clear.
loud and clear. And when she line locked the tires to pull out of the driveway, that was loud and clear too.
Okay.
So,
It's actually a miracle we're still together. We eventually worked it out. I just learned to stand my ground, just learned to speak his language and not be bullied by him.
and I kid you not, I'm not kidding at all. I literally drove away one morning feeling successful as the champion of my relationship. And Jesus literally straight up said to me, he says, you feel good making your wife feel like she was wrong? Does that make you feel good? And I was like, well, it's not really about that. It's about winning the argument. And he really got in my face, and he said, how could you ever diminish your bride? He says, you're to champion her, and she's the greatest gift in your life. And he really got in my face, and I felt serious conviction about an issue. And I only did it about 10 more times after that.
Okay. Actually, he's never really stopped. He's just toned it down.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So the other thing was, so communication is really, really important. And so you would encourage people, if they're having some communication breakdown, you need to talk to someone. Because someone from an objective point of view can point out some things, correct?
So say that again.
Someone who's totally objective and out of the situation will be able to...
Yeah, because someone like myself can, or another therapist can sort of see into your relationship, see the dynamic that's there, and highlight that to each other. So it's like, so I could say, you know, when you approach your spouse in this way, you notice that they shut down. So let's try a different approach to that, and we sort of practice things together, or I'll give them suggestions to, you know, talk differently to each other when they go home, and usually it works really, really well. And even just being in the environment where they have an opportunity and there is a third person there that's kind of conveying back each person's perspective, they get so much out of that. Because like even just seeing, oh, that's why I am the way I am, that's why I talk the way that I talk, that's why I do what I do, that in of itself becomes a real highlight and revelation of the process.
You know, when we started doing our personality evaluations and things, started to figure out who we were a bit better, I got to understand that I really, sometimes it's not behavior, it is I'm wired that way, I am wired a certain way. And when I understood how Cheryl was wired, it helped me understand that sometimes she doesn't do those things because she's not engaged with me. That's just the way she speaks. And so it's like I had to learn the language of another culture, and I had to lean a little her way. And
I had to do the same.
And she's
so the beautiful thing about things like that, when you're given opportunities like that, is you can depersonalize the arguments, and because generally you deeply love one another, so then you can depersonalize it and approach it in a very different way.
Absolutely. And then again, when you open yourself up to the process of therapy, you learn more about yourself in the process. So you learn the areas where maybe you need to shift a little bit, or maybe your spouse needs to shift a little bit. You have to do your own work, but you're doing your own work for the benefit of your relationship. Yeah.
So one of the things, like I understand, communication is pretty well what begins everything. So is there more levels of intimacy than just sexual intimacy?
Absolutely.
Did you say sexual intimacy?
Yes.
She did, yeah. Well, actually, what's really interesting...
Not that sex isn't important. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just asking, there's more to a relationship than just that.
Amen, and that just got recorded. So.
There is.
Go ahead, golly.
Did you say go ahead, golly?
Golly.
Well, interestingly, when it comes to communication, if I actually start with that with a couple and they've come in and they're having intimate issues together and they begin to communicate better, their intimate life, their sex life becomes infinitely better just by a side effect of that.
Oh, wow.
So that's why just feeling connected, communicating well, feeling like you're understood and that you understand each other, and that, again, that you feel validated in who you are and how you feel and what your needs are, all of that really is important. It works wonders.
Yeah.
And just highlighting some of those things, you know, a couple can come in for 2 sessions and that's all they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do find today, our thing is we work together, we do everything together, and we work together well. We do a lot of things together well. But there are some times that we just are so busy that we are spending time on everything, but we don't spend as much time just on us. And so we actually have to plan intimacy. We have to plan to get away.
We're not very good at planning, by the way.
Yeah, we're not. So we have to But we have to plan to get away, just to take time for ourselves, because
To
our
unwind.
schedule is just odd and crazy. But you do find that you can become emotionally disconnected because of the
Are you emotionally
acceleration.
disconnected?
Not with you, honey.
Okay.
So
Just check in.
it actually does get tough, because sometimes I get home and I'm done, you know, and and then that's when Cheryl wants me to do my chores, you know. So I'm like, man, so, like she never stops, like just never
This is
stops.
true.
So it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So let her speak to that.
Yeah, so I mean, time is a really big factor in relationships today, more so than it ever has been. And it's one of the biggest complaints I get. Couples are coming in and they're just like, we're both working, we've got the kids, we've got to get them to all these different places, we have our own things that we need to do. Like, it's now 9 o'clock and we watch an episode of The Bachelor and go to bed.
No, never Bachelorette.
I know. I don't know why they picked that. It was that
Yeah, I
or
don't-
Real
you
Housewives.
watch that? You
I
watch-
don't.
Okay, just
Maybe for research, but
So, like, people change, though, over marriage. Like, when you think about, I'm just speaking specifically about women and their whole sexual drive changes, their needs, everything between periods, children, menopause, everything changes. How do you help a couple navigate all of those changes when the other person just doesn't understand?
yeah. So again, it's just kind of highlighting those things within this context. So when we're together, it's like, okay, you know what? Let's validate that this isn't about you. This isn't the fact that you're not attracted to your spouse. It's just that in the case of women, you're going through lots of different changes. So we need some patience and some grace to kind of move through that. And then to your earlier question, when you said is there more to intimacy than just the sexual part? Absolutely. So I encourage couples to really define their own intimate life and say to them, you know, it's not what everybody else is saying or what everyone else is doing. There's not a certain number of times per week that you need to be having sex. There's not a quota for all of these different things. You set the parameters of what you want your intimacy to look like.
Because we have we have great crisis intimacy, all of those, because we've gone through crises in ministry and life and marriage, and we have good friendship intimacy and everything like that, and then we have to plan other things. Just saying.
that was awkward, wasn't it?
I don't know. How's everybody else feeling about that? Okay, then we're okay. We're good, yeah.
Yeah.
So where are the top 10 things? Did you put them on a PowerPoint?
I put them on a slide there. They're somewhere there.
Yeah. Oh, so what do you do when people come in and they have totally different financial goals, how they handle their finances and everything else, and then they're totally in stress about it all?
Yeah, I was just dealing with this last week with a couple that I have that have been married for 45 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's a great example. I have couples that are pre-married, premarital, that are coming in for premarital counseling, couples that have been married for 20 years, 10 years, and now even ones that are 40, 50 years.
Oh, my.
So it doesn't matter. That's why it's important. But this couple last week, the wife, she just loves spending money, and she does it secretly. It's at the point. It's at the point now that
secret shopper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or she will, she'll transfer money to her kids and get her kids to buy her stuff.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, all right, where am I going to
That
go
would
with this
bring on
one?
some trust issues.
All heads
Yeah.
bowed, all eyes closed.
Let her finish.
Sorry.
Yeah, so then I addressed with her, I said, well, why do you feel that you need to do this in secret? And she actually felt that in the context of therapy, she could confess that she was doing this. So that's another good thing. Like, she didn't feel that she can confess this to her husband just on her own. So she used the therapeutic process where there was somebody there to kind of manage the tension a little bit, to say, you know what, I've been secretly shopping.
There's a phobia for that, isn't there?
There's a what?
Isn't there a phobia for too much spending, or is that stealing, kleptomaniac?
There may be.
No, don't talk.
I'm not sure that there is.
Did you say don't talk?
Yeah, don't use the words right now.
Okay.
So she is of the mindset that she wants to live for today and spend money, and he's of the mindset that okay, they're getting older. He wants to plan more for their retirement and save. So how do you find that happy middle between the two of them? Well, first I had to resolve the secret spending. And through that confession process, we just identified that she feels just nervous to communicate to him how much she's spending, knowing that he'll get upset about it. So we talked through, maybe setting a budget together and figuring out, what would be an amount that's reasonable that she could spend weekly.
Yeah, that's good. That's helpful.
And,
how many pairs of shoes do you need? That's
What? What'd you say?
Some people have too many pairs of shoes. So.
He has more than me. By the way, he has more clothes than me.
So maybe you could set a budget for the number of shoes or that you both agree on. Or maybe not.
Let's talk about her stuff now.
Let me see what else. Trust issues. What's the number one reason people would have a trust issue?
A lot of it stems from previous relationships. If they've been in a relationship before where it wasn't healthy and there was some kind of deception, or if there was infidelity, cheating, or anything like that, and if they bring that into the new relationship, then there's going to be a natural fear that their new partner will do the same. Some of it also stems, and this is more from the research, from the type of attachment pattern that you develop from a very young age, as an infant and even as a young child. Yeah. So if you sort of felt that your primary caregiver, your parents, were readily available and they were warm and nurturing, then you develop more of a secure attachment. You believe then that other people are dependable and they're going to care for you. If you had a different kind of experience, there could be many different reasons why that is the case, and maybe you don't feel as safe with people because of what your early childhood experiences were like, that can come into your adult relationships.
It's crazy what you bring into a relationship, and you don't realize how much of your family environment dictates your adult behavior as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember I never spoke this out loud until a couple years or 3 or 4 years into our marriage, but I just had a huge distrust that all men leave their wives at 40 for some young blonde chick somewhere. And so what happens is you withhold a bit, and then eventually something happened that was really ridiculous, but it ended up coming out, and I actually confessed that. Fear, concern, distrust, whatever. I mean, he had given me no reason to distrust him, but the rest of my life had given me plenty of experiences to distrust.
Yeah, that was a big breakthrough, because I'd got to the place where I knew I couldn't make Cheryl talk about stuff until she wanted to talk about it. So I had to kind of nurse things along. But we were going through like a 2-week period where I was like, I don't know what happened here, but we're a long ways away and a long ways apart. And I came back from a chapel. We were in Bible school at the time. I came back from a chapel, and Cheryl was in the kitchen. Chapel was so good today. And then she turned around and says, I don't trust you. And I was like, gosh, like I just walked in the door. Like what the... And then,
when things came and I was really brave enough to do it, I just had to blurt it out when it happened.
And it just was like out of nowhere. But then she really unpacked the whole thing. And it was really a really neat moment, because she was able to unpack that she'd brought into the relationship she'd experienced. She said, I didn't have a single uncle, single aunt, single cousin, single anybody who didn't cheat on somebody. And so I brought into this relationship that I have to withhold a little bit of myself, because I got to keep some of me, because you are going to hurt me. Mm-hmm. And it was a massive breakthrough.
Yeah, because I was just kind of, every girl that he talked to, I was like, oh my gosh, like, anyways.
And I talked to a lot of girls. So.
Yeah. I think that's a huge breakthrough, certainly for you, like, because you recognize that you're guarded because of fear, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to give all of yourself. You want to hold just a little bit back, just in case.
Yeah.
But the thing about love is that, I think you even had like a quote about that it's a risk.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. It's risky. It's a risk worth taking.
Yes.
Certainly, but at the same time, it's a risk worth taking if you feel safe and secure. So if you recognize in yourself, I don't feel safe and secure, it may be because of the relationship. It may be something that your spouse or your partner could do differently to help with that, but it also might be something within yourself that
it was
you are
totally
transferring.
like, I couldn't believe that I could be so jaded, so guarded, and he'd done nothing other than, be a typical young man who thinks they know everything, but he'd done nothing to kind of warrant that kind of distrust. So, it was, I always think about, I'm really thankful for God and the Holy Spirit, that there are moments when you go, like, we probably should have gone to counseling a long time ago. We should have done good pre-marriage counseling as well, but I'm just thankful to the Lord and the Holy Spirit that there are moments when He can break through and just, build things up again.
Well, we did. I loved before we got married. What I loved about Cheryl was her fierce independence and just the way she did life. I loved her passion for God. I think one of the things that drew us together was just that, she liked reading the book of Isaiah. Me too. So strangely though, but some real genuine affection grew, and we got married, and we were in a context back then where the man's the head of the house, and Cheryl lost her way in marriage. She just stopped doing everything, and I wasn't paying attention because things were good. Like the meals
He had his
were
meals
good,
made,
the
his
laundry was
done.
except the one time she did the laundry, and I had these cashmere pants, and when the season turned, and these pants, I would wear them when it got colder, and then the season changed. I went, where did those pants go? And Cheryl's telling me she doesn't know where they are, right? She doesn't know. And so I think it was the Holy Spirit who led me to this one box, and I pulled everything out of the box, and on the bottom, all the way at the bottom of this box, is my 2 pairs of pants. But I pulled them out, and they were about this big. She decided instead of dry cleaning, she could do it herself, and she ruined the pants, and then she hid the evidence.
Okay. That would have given us something to talk about.
I mean, it
would have been something to talk about.
It was an open door to the gates of hell in our union. I felt the spiritual breach.
I was still nervous. I was still finding my way, like you said.
Yeah.
And just didn't know how, I grew up in a very independent, my mom was very independent. But when I became a Christian, I just bought everything that I heard, hook, line, and sinker. So I thought, this is what women do. And so I was afraid that, oh no. So I hid them. They were hid for a good 8 or 9 months. Anyways, I was afraid.
It's a true story.
It's a good story.
I took it out of her allowance, though, so it's okay. But that was one of the things we had to deal with was we really had a conversation. I said, Cheryl, you're not, although I used to play the song, A Lot of Man Needs a Maid, I said, you're not my maid.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
No, let's not.
So when we would have a little bit of a tiff when we were young, Carl would play this Neil Young song called Maid, Maid.
A man needs a maid. Bum, 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 a maid. And I'd put it on like 10, and she'd be screaming at me.
What do you think about that, Holly?
Anyways.
I think I would start by asking Pastor Carl, what to you is a mate? What's
what are you
important?
trying to say?
Yeah. What were you trying to say with playing that song?
I don't even know. I think I was just trying to win.
Okay. Is that important to you?
No, it was messy. It was bad. I'm a lot better since last week. So.
Okay, that's good. That's good progress after 1 week.
Well, one thing that was really helpful is when we did the Strength Finders by Marcus Buckingham, and his number one talent or strength is competition. So then when I learned that, again, it was one of those light bulb things that went off, and I just went, okay, again, this isn't personal. This is just his weird way of doing life.
Actually, my number one strength is
relator, right? Yeah, but competition was pretty high.
Activator, achiever, competition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, just highlighting that anytime you can take the opportunity to do those surveys, do a personality survey, do strengths finders, and just learn more about yourself, learn more about your spouse or your partner, like it just really changes the dynamic of your relationship. Because then you see through a different lens. Oh, he's not being narcissistic. He's being competitive.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. So we got to release the people who are working with our children. So can you give us some last final advice for what you would tell couples? What helps them? What's the best advice you can give us?
The best advice that I like to give is to just have, and this sounds very Christian, but it's have a shared vision for your marriage. Really decide what it is that's important to you individually, what's important to you for your relationship. And then ask the question, what can I do to help you? How can I serve you better? What do you need that I can help with? And ask that question of each other. So that requires that you know what your needs are, you know what your expectations are, you know what your desires are, so that you can then communicate that effectively to each other.
Which is really hard when people are young, because they really don't know that.
Yeah. You may have to just start with, maybe it is, I need a little bit of space. Okay, so what does space look like? Well, it means that when I get home from work, I'm not going to do my chores right away. I'm going to just take 5 minutes and decompress.
Yeah.
And then I will kind of re-engage with the things that need to get done. Like, just sort of defining it as specifically as you can.
Yeah.
If you need more closeness, then
say it.
Say it. Yeah. Communicate it. Well, what does that mean? So it's not always the what, it's also the how. So, well, how can I be closer to you? You need to explain that to me. I was like, well, just sit with me at this level of proximity on the couch, and let's, chat together for a few minutes, or let's watch a show together. That might be all that's needed. Most of what couples need is simple.
Yeah.
And
it just needs to be communicated.
Constantly
you go into
communicating.
marriage with your own script, and then you didn't give your partner the script and wonder why they're not playing their role.
Yeah.
It's really important.
You ever get people just, it's not going to work?
I do, but a lot of therapists will say that they're they take a strength-based approach to therapy, which basically means that they look for the strengths and try to find like the highlights of a relationship. Good. Sometimes there's just none there if they've become so separated. I take more of a hope-based approach, so I always want to hold on to hope, but in some cases, if it's not in the best interest of either one of them, if it's harmful to them in some way, either just physically due to stress, mentally, emotionally, then I will suggest that they separate even for a time, and then reevaluate and come back to it a little bit later and see if reconciliation is possible. I have a couple that I'm working with right now that are separated, and they're both on opposite pages. He wants to get back together and she does not. And I've been meeting with them for, I've had 12 sessions with them, and I go in every session, I pray before every session I go in, I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing here, because they don't want the same thing. Very incompatible in terms of what they want. So I'm just holding that position of hope, and it's like, okay, well, what can I find that they are compatible on? And right now it's healing. It's healing from some of the things that they've experienced personally, individually, and as they're doing that, and we're doing that together in this context, their relationship is just coming back together on its own.
Great.
So things I love the whole idea of approaching things from a hope basis, and that's kind of the starting point.
Well, Holly, thanks for doing this with us. And,
thanks for having me.
We appreciate that, and thanks for you folks watching.
And so as pastors, it's not that... It's not that we don't love you and don't want to care for you, but I do think it's important when you're going through struggles in relationship that you actually go and seek someone out, that this is their field, this is what they've studied, this is what they do all the time.
It's what they do all the time.
And then go ahead and proceed with that. It's really important. And if you're a young married couple, it's really good to get some counseling before marriage as well, and have those kind of questions asked of you before you jump into something that will be the biggest decision of your life.
True story. Well, thank you, Holly. Appreciate that.
I really appreciate Holly and Joel and the family being here today. Thank you so much.